Hello. Welcome to the Brothers Podcast, another episode. I'm James, this is Craig, and if you're only just tuning in, let me let you know what the Brothers Podcasts are all about. Me and Craig are sharing our experiences in dealing with mental health, all sorts of types of mental health, in the hope that someone out there will feel less alone and maybe even just get a bit of a greater understanding of what they're going through. And maybe if you're someone who knows someone who's going through mental health, you can also maybe understand it a little bit better yourself. So if you haven't heard the previous 3 episodes, we started off episode 1 talking about the snowballing effect of our thoughts and thinking. And episode 2 was the anxieties that we feel in regards to all sorts of different things. And episode 3 was in regards to self-care.
So yeah, we just wanted to thank everyone for listening to the first 3 episodes and all the love we've had, and for everyone who's donated to Lee's GoFundMe as well. The first 3 podcasts we recorded were before my friend Lee committed suicide. And Lee, as I said in the last podcast, she was seeking help. She was taking medication. She had a great support of people around her, like her family and friends were super supportive. But in Lee's case, she was the victim of cyberbullying. So the goal with Lee's GoFundMe is to start a foundation in Lee's name to prevent cyberbullying and to help people who are suffering with mental health. So thank you so much to everybody who's donated to that. And thanks to everyone who's left love on the podcast as well. We've had a lot of messages and comments, and one message in particular was, how do I support a partner who's suffering with their mental health? So this week we're talking about how you can support someone you know who might be struggling with mental health, or if you are that person, ways in which you can communicate your needs to somebody who might be there to support you but doesn't know how. So you could probably tell we're a little bit nervous. It's been a while since we recorded the last podcasts, and so we were like stoked to get the podcast out there, but at the same time we had a lot of anxieties because we're not like trained therapists and we're not counselors, and we were worried that we would sort of get a lot of messages of people asking for help. But if what we wanted to say is, like, if you're at a point where you feel suicidal or you feel like you are really struggling, then seek professional help. We'll leave links in the YouTube and everything for you to click, or go and see your GP. But yeah, hopefully, like we said in the beginning, this podcast is just something you can listen to, and hopefully you can have a few takeaways.
Yeah, and relate to it as well, you know. Yeah. And because I think there's probably a lot of people out there who are feeling certain things, but maybe they haven't felt them for as long as maybe we have over the years or something. Do you know what I mean? So it might be a little bit new to them. So hopefully they might be able to hear, you know, relate to what we go through. A lot of people say, oh my God, I can relate so much to what you're saying. And hopefully then that'll help them maybe understand their thoughts a little bit quicker maybe than it might have taken if you were just sitting there waiting for something to improve or something, you know?
Yeah, or wondering what these new thoughts are that you're having, and you don't know what to do with them.
Yeah. But yes, like you said, I'm very glad that intro's over now, because I was shitting myself. I have no idea why. I don't know. I think I'm not going to lie.
Nervous, mate.
Yeah, since the podcast has gone up as well, I have felt a bit more anxiety and stuff over, you know, trying to do all the stuff online and on Instagram and stuff. But something that we realised is, like, we're not cured or anything like that. We're still going through our own stuff. Now, you're going through grief now, and I'm feeling a lot of anxiety lately. So we're still trying to manage ourselves as well as trying to put this out there as well, you know?
And I was toying with the idea of even doing this podcast because of how I'm feeling right now, but I just thought, you know, if we can do our little bit, do you know what I mean? Because the feedback's been incredible. There's been so many of you have been like messaging saying it's helped, and like you know, it's made you feel less alien, and just so many people have said I can relate to this and I can relate to that, and there's so many different elements that people have picked up on. So we know that it's helping. So we thought, let's jump back in and just keep the ball rolling with it.
Exactly. So what we did was we put out an Instagram story on the Brothers Podcast Instagram. That's what it is, at the Brothers Podcast. Asking people of maybe some suggestions they might have or questions they might have in regards to if they know someone who needs support or is struggling, and how they can help them. Or if you were a person that was struggling and you want to maybe let people know how it's best to help you, because we were saying this as well. We were trying to figure out some of the important things that need to be said. But everybody is so different. So obviously we're saying there's things we can all relate with and maybe notice similar behaviors. But when it comes to how other people should respond to you or deal with you or talk to you, we're all going to be so different.
Yeah, this is not a blueprint at
Absolutely
all. This
not.
isn't like, if you do this, this will work. You've got to gauge the person. Obviously, if this is something that you're listening to in the hopes that you can help your partner, hopefully something from this will help you. But yeah, this isn't a blueprint. So everybody's different.
Yeah, and I think that probably leads me on to one of the first things I wanted to say about what you could do, and what I kind of really only learned maybe 2 weeks ago, a week ago, is, and a lot of people said this as well as a suggestion, is you don't get worried about having to give advice, or don't maybe even try and give advice.
Yeah.
Sometimes people aren't looking for you to answer all their questions or give them the solution. Sometimes, more often than not, probably, people just need someone to listen to them. Because like we said in some of the previous podcasts about how all these thoughts are rolling in your head, and because you're not saying them out loud, or you're not able to properly reflect on what you're thinking, you're literally just snowballing in your thoughts.
Yeah.
So once you get a chance to speak that out loud, and the other person literally is just there nodding their head, saying yes, or saying I understand, or something, it helps so much just hearing your own thoughts out loud.
Yeah.
And sometimes, maybe the person can give a bit of input that might make you say, oh, but you didn't realize you said this earlier, and then it might open your eyes a little bit. But I think listening to start with is such a big thing, because sometimes when people are, even if they do open up to you and they maybe message you or they tell you things that they might be dealing with in that moment, even if it's just feeling crap or just don't want to get out of bed, whatever it might be, they might literally just want to have a bit of a conversation, and for you to just say, oh, what's up? Or, oh, that's okay, take the day, you know what I mean? Or relax, you know what I mean? And they just want that, and it's great that they're just even speaking to someone in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a key thing is the listening part of it, because at the end of the day, whatever you're going through, you've got some sort of pain that's inside of you, and you want to voice it out loud, essentially, to get it out of your head, to get those thoughts from just being in your head and having a conversation with yourself. So just being there for someone is so key. But the other problem is, if you're a person who's got a partner who's suffering, or a friend or a family member, it's sometimes so hard to crack them open and for them to get them to tell you what they're feeling. So there's a number of things I've been thinking about. And I think like writing letters is like it is such a underestimated thing. Like if you've got someone who's struggling and you wrote them a letter, it's something so powerful about having words on a bit of paper, just saying like, I'm here for you, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And that when you first said that about letters, I thought, did you just mean like a little note, send a letter abroad, whatever it might be? But, I know exactly what you mean. And it reminded me, while you were saying that, of a time when, in the very early days of me feeling depressed, probably 10 or more years ago now, and you knew I was down, or I had told you I was down. It was after we come back from Australia. And you had obviously shared that with Amy, which again is absolutely fine, because I think it's, other people can give you a bit of a different insight as well. And Amy wrote me a little note, and and she wrapped it around a little pack of raisins, and she posted it through my letterbox. And
what an absolute angel.
I know, and you just reminded me of that, and it literally, and I remember. And it didn't mention you in it or anything, and it wasn't from you either. Do you know what I mean? It was literally, she just went and did this of her own accord. And I remember getting that, and it was such a surprise, so out of the blue. And also to know that just, say, some random person, not just my best mate, but, my best mate's girlfriend, whatever, was sort of thinking about me or just wanted me to feel better, and she went out of her way to do that. It felt so good. It was like so eye-opening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's my girlfriend.
So, yeah, that's Craig's girlfriend. Yeah. So that was amazing.
Gem.
Yeah.
She is a gem, and she's done that for me so many times when I felt low. Just written me little notes, and it definitely helps. But I think listening is key, because I think the one thing that I tend to do if I see someone or I see a problem is I want to fix it. And I think a lot of people, that's a go-to. You like, I want to fix this person, because you can't bear to see them feeling so sad and so down. So by offering advice and trying to logically figure out a way out of it, it's not always the right thing to do.
Good. I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
But it's the human nature is to go, right, how can I fix this? But like we said in the beginning of this, we're not fixed, and I don't think we ever will be, in the sense of you're not going to just be like, I'm happy now.
Yeah, you just become better at dealing with things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like an ebb and flow that you have to get used to. So I think just being there for somebody and understanding that if you offer them advice, sometimes it works, but just know that if they don't want to take it or it doesn't work, try not to get frustrated.
Yes.
Because that's the battle then that you have. And that's why I think a lot of couples really struggle with when one person is struggling and they want to fix them and they can't, they take it personally, and don't ever take it personally, because it's not your fault that they feel that way.
Yeah. And sometimes, like we talked about, how when you feel a bit down, sometimes it's almost like you kind of not want to be, but you kind of,
you're like happy being sad.
Yeah, because and I think sometimes as well, that's when you know that you'll have a sleep tonight and tomorrow's a new day. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of thing, so you're okay having that bit of downtime, if you will, in more ways than one. Do you know what I mean? And so you can offer your advice, and if they don't take it, don't be offended. It doesn't mean they don't care about what you're saying and they're not going to listen to you. And it doesn't mean they're never going to listen to you or anything either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, you just got to have a bit of patience, and just wait for the right moments. And those right moments will make the difference,
So when we're saying this, we don't know who the person you're want to help, or if you're that person, we don't know what you're going through. So, you need to gauge that person. And one of the things is like space, like how much space does somebody need? Because I find that when I feel low, I do tend to isolate, and sometimes it can be really bad, like when we said about the snowballing aspect of it, where I'd lock myself in my room and it would just get worse and worse. But there's other times where I do feel sad, like at the moment I've been spending a lot of time just on my own, just trying to process stuff, and I'm sometimes able to deal with that because I can, piece together things on my own, and that's okay. But sometimes people will want to be on their own, and if they say I want to be on their own and you've asked them numerous times, then chances are they do. But it's just,
I think maybe kind of not setting in stone, but a timeline or a time frame might help that, maybe, because like with you, when you do like to isolate, or recently where you've been feeling a bit down, and I know that, and you'll be messaging me anyway, but I'll know that you're not feeling your best or something, and I'll ask you, and you'll let me know that you're not.
Yeah.
But because now I know how you are in regards to it, I know that I can give you that space. I know I'll just make sure I drop you a text message to say, hope you're doing okay. I won't put a question in it. It won't be how you doing, because then you might feel you got to respond. So I'll say, hope you're doing okay. Do you know what I mean? So at least I'm there and I'm thinking about you. Because I know that then, well, I'll give him till tomorrow, because after a whole day of it and whatnot, you hopefully will wake up just a little bit brighter tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? But then knowing if someone is doing that continuously and they don't sort of come out of that dip, if the next day they're still the same or worse, then I would say maybe start to ease off how much space you're giving them. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying pester them and don't bother them, that sort of stuff, but try to just make yourself a little bit more available to them, or maybe do stuff for them. Do you know what I mean?
Things, and I think, a lot of people just want to they just want you there. And I think maybe if we just talk from personal experience, it might make things easier, because like there's moments where like I feel so down, and me and Amy, have an argument or whatever, and she'd be like, "Do you want a hug?" And of course I do, but I'm so annoyed, and I'm feeling so sorry for myself that I say no.
Mate, that's crazy you say that. No, you're right. And when you said it, then I realised, like, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's weird.
It's like you're having, like, maybe I'm having a bit of a tantrum, but you're like, do you know what I mean? You're just like, no. Yeah. But really, in your head, you're like, I'd love a hug now. And that's all I want. Yeah,
and you'd probably love it if they just came over and gave you a hug.
Yeah.
I'm not saying as in, like, oh, they're doing it all wrong. I just mean, to anyone out there, this, for you anyway, and for me then, if I was in that situation and someone just decided to not say a word, not try and figure it out, just come over and hug me.
Yeah.
Because me and Jess had like a little tiff. When we were down the house, we're trying to sort the house out, we're painting all that. So we sometimes get a bit frustrated, especially because I'm a why guy. I ask why to everything, and then I ask why to the answer I get. Do you know what I mean? So like she's doing the filler, and I'm like, but why, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but why? And I want to know the answers to everything. So then we get a little frustrated, right? Because it's just the way I am. I ask why all the time. So, and so we had a little tiff. I went and did my job. She went and did her job. And we weren't talking. In my head then, already I'm snowballing. I'm thinking, right, well, that's going to be the day now. I'm thinking, right, well, where do we go from here? I'm like, should I just go home? Should I just do you know what I mean? I'm already snowballing into, the whole day is just going to be this whole ordeal now. Do you know what I mean? Even though it wasn't that big a situation, but my head was just snowballing it. But then, and I was thinking, like, what shall I do? Because I don't want it to be this way, but I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to go in there and make it better. And then Jess just came out and sat in front of me and gave me a hug and that. And I could have cried because it was such a relief.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All this stuff was snowballing through my head. It was such a relief just to have that person not even say a word.
Yeah.
Not even ask, can I hug you? They just came over, looked me in the eye or sat in front of me, whatever, and gave me a hug. Do you know what I mean? It just felt so nice because instantly, any tension, any sadness, anything just all went away, and I was just so relieved that I was just having a hug and things would be better. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying it'll fix so easily in other situations, but
yeah. Can we just take a little minute, shout out our girlfriends. Shout out our girlfriends.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Shout out the girlfriends, yes.
It can be really difficult, and I know for a long time I didn't tell Amy how I felt. I kept it all to myself. She didn't know I was suffering with depression, or she didn't know I had any anxiety. And she said, I wish you'd have told me. And I remember saying before so bitterly, and I really regret saying it. She was just like, "I'll never understand you," and I was like, "You never will." And I wish I never said that. And she does now because I tell her, and it's just about communication again. So if you're the person on the other end, the person who is suffering, you can make it easier for other people by just communicating your needs. What do you need? If you want some alone time and you state that, then that person will respect it. If you want someone to just be there, just to watch a film or just hold your hand whilst you sit there and have a sulk or feel down, then you just tell them that. And I think it all boils back to that, is if you're not communicating properly, one, you don't know what you want yourself, and two, the other person's not going to know either.
Yeah.
Just those little gestures. Like my mum is very good at picking up on when I'm down. Sometimes like I don't even see her in the house, but she just knows. She texts me. She's like, "You're all right, Craig?" And I'm like, "Actually, I'm not." And then she brings me up a cup of tea and we have a talk. And I'm just like, those little things are just like precious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's another great point to make, is if you don't know what to say, or you've done a lot of listening and whatnot, and the person's still not picking up, don't ask them, do they want some food? If you know they haven't maybe eaten or something, or they haven't drank anything, don't ask them. Yeah. I'm not saying be pushy, but just go make some jam on toast.
Do you know what?
Make a cup of tea and just bring it to them, put it on the side and say there's some food and a cup of tea.
And how amazing is that? Yeah. Because when someone asks you, you're like, "Oh, that's nice." And then it comes, but you're expecting it. Yeah. But when they just bring it to you, you're like, "Oh shit, jam on toast with a cup of tea."
And
winning.
Also, but also you're more likely to say, like you said, when someone says to you, "Are you okay?" and you say, "I'm fine," or or "Do you want a hug?" No. You may well say no to it. Don't give them the chance to say no. Yeah. But I'm not saying bring it in and say, "Right, eat that. I want that gone." But in 10 minutes, you know what I mean? Like, just say to them, like, "I've made you some jam on toast and a cup of tea. I'll just put it down here on the side. If you don't fancy it, don't worry. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's there. And even if they don't eat it, they then have that thought in their head that someone cares enough for me to make me food and stuff. You know what? It's making me a bit emotional because it's of a message I just read on Instagram as well about that I really related to, about someone saying they suffer and their boyfriend doesn't understand mental health in the sense that he doesn't feel it himself and stuff, I don't think. But he's very good at supporting them on those low days and dips and stuff, you know, and he'll try and make her laugh and take her out for a walk, things like that. If you want to support someone, honestly, just showing that you care about them and being nice and being understanding and being tolerating, you know, any maybe behavior that they may express. Obviously, don't take too much if they're being really horrible. But if they're being a bit short with you or whatnot, or standoffish, don't take it personally, you know, and whatnot. And bringing food along and all that sort of stuff. Really, honestly, from my experience, I can say it makes such a difference just to have that thought in your head that someone cares for you, and it's incredible, you know. So I think that really makes a difference. If you want to do something for someone, just do those little things, because they're not as little as you think.
100%. And going back to your story, mate, if anybody missed it on the last episodes, James is in a really bad place in Hong Kong, so I suggested that you come home because I knew you were really struggling. And as soon as you were home, it was like all hands on deck for me. I wanted to make sure that I was making sure you were okay. So I did everything I could to sort of support you and show you that I cared about you. Do you know what I mean? And so I would, like, one of the things I did was, like, I made a playlist on my phone and I said, come to my house, and I charged up our electric scooters and we went out for a scooter ride.
Yes, and you made me a playlist with Tina Turner and all these classic 90s tunes that I loved. Yeah, I remember that. And again, that's another great thing, because it got me out of that bubble as well. You know, like, don't get me wrong, we still talked about how I was feeling, I was still down and all that sort of stuff, but you know what, I was doing something that I absolutely wouldn't have done otherwise. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was out of the house doing scootering, listening to Tina Turner. I wasn't, by all means, I mean, in all regards, I wasn't like singing it out loud or anything like this, but I was doing that, and it was great. Yeah.
And it was just trying to get you out of your head, because I think any physical activities always help so much. Like, if you're, you know, we were out on the scooters, we were kind of chuckling a little bit that we were listening to Tina Turner on scooters as like 30-year-old men. But yeah, it was like that. And I was checking in. Another question we had on Instagram was, how often should I check in? And again, this is circumstantial, but if somebody's, you know, voiced that they're suicidal, whether they're getting help or not, it's a good idea to be checking in on them as much as you can, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I do. I agree with that, because that person, I think in those, if it got to that extreme, the person, I don't think you should be thinking then whether, like, I don't want to bother them too much. Do you know what I mean? I think in that case, you need to be bothering them. Do you know what I mean? Not bothering them, but you need to be giving them much more attention. Whether it's going places or just being there on the phone or in person or just popping round or whatever it is, then definitely make yourself more available then. And again, don't get frustrated, you know, or be pushy. Just be present and just be available. Because it makes such a difference, because, you know, knowing that, because I had you there. Or I know you were literally on call, basically, because I can't remember if we said it in one of the other podcasts where I said there was the one day where I got really upset and I called you up. I think you were driving at the time or something. You pulled over but I couldn't even speak. I didn't even talk on the phone call. I didn't say one word on the phone call. I was crying, but kind of like that almost audible, non-audible cry. Do you know what I mean? It was like, because I was crying so much, I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what to say to you, but I just pressed dial. And you picked up the phone, you're like, you're right. And then because I wasn't responding or talking, you just said to me, like, I'll be there now. And you said, I'm just by here. I'll turn the car around and I'll come to you now. Where are you? At your dad's? And I think I did say yes. I'm not sure. And you said, I'll be there now. And yeah, that was amazing. So checking in with them, you know, or making yourself, letting them know you're available. anytime.
Yeah,
Anytime. Even if, like, because I'm pretty sure you said to me, if you ever need to call me or whatever, and you don't even say a word, that's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think that was our little code.
yeah,
wasn't it?
like
I was
you don't even have to say anything.
just press dial, and
Yeah.
you did. I'm glad you did, because.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you were out, you were like, yeah, we just chatted it out and you felt better.
Yeah, as soon as you got there, I wasn't crying or anything anymore because I'd made that call and I knew he was coming. All of a sudden, I did feel a bit of a relief, and also it took me out of myself a little bit because then I had to sort of prepare, if you will, for someone coming. Do you know what I mean? So, but it all made a difference because you know, if I was crying that much and I was on my own, you know, you don't know where it would have gone, you know, and I was able to stop it there because I called you up, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another thing as well, definitely.
It's a tricky place to try and navigate, especially because we had this conversation this morning where some people have got no experience of mental health. They've never had, you know, a friend or a family member go through it, but I've seen so much of it in my life. It's almost become the norm. And similar with Amy, you know, she's because she had cancer, she met so many people who went through it, and she always knows the right thing to say, and how to sort of give advice and stuff like that. So if you've never experienced it before, and this is just you listening to try and understand it a bit more, it's such a complex thing. And it's obviously, we're just talking specifically about anxiety and depression, but there's so many other mental health disorders. There's OCD, there's eating disorders. Those are the things that I wish I knew more about. But from personal experience, you feel like it's the best place for us to give you advice and tell stories about what we've been through.
Yeah, because like we said, this is us sharing our experiences.
Yeah.
But by doing that, hopefully you will be able to listen and go, like, okay, maybe I don't understand why they would have acted that way or felt that sad over nothing. But at least it can hopefully maybe help you put yourself in their head, sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Because even if you don't understand it and you have no experience being around mental health or maybe having it yourself, a bad mental health or being around it yourself, like, that's okay, you know, that's great for you and stuff, and it's not, we're not looking down on you or anything because you can't relate, or anything like that. The only thing I would say in that situation is how important it is to be understanding, not to get annoyed and angry, you know what I mean, and don't try, like you said, I think the word logic is really important. Don't try to explain it with logic.
Yeah, because sometimes there's no explanation at all.
There's no explanation, no. And I feel like my mind works in a very logical way. You say this as well. And we try to solve things with logic. And that's sometimes why I get so down on myself, because I try to say, well, why am I down? It's not logical. And then I bum myself out because I feel like, well, stupid then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not always logical. Sometimes there is, a reason for it happening. You know, maybe something's happened, but don't try and explain it to yourself with logic, because sometimes you just have to accept this is what's happening right now. What can I do to try and lift this person's spirits?
Yeah.
You know, or lift your own spirits.
One thing to mention with this as well is if you are a person who is around mental health, I say around mental health, everybody's got mental health. If you're around someone who's suffering, or a number of people who are suffering, then what you need to be doing first is looking after yourself. Because if you're not in the right headspace, you're going to be useless to anybody else anyway. So put your own mental health first. If you feel like really low and you've got people who are feeling really low, if they're within a family group or a friend group and they're happy to talk to other people, maybe try and share the load, so someone else could look after them or take them out for a day. But if you're trying to take on everybody's problems, then you're going to just burn out and you're going to feel worse. And I always feel like I've got this analogy for people in terms of like balls of energy, and I feel like you meet certain people and they're like green balls of energy. They're like extroverted, they're out there, and you're around them, and when you're around them, they give off all this good energy, and you feel wicked. But people can change. Like sometimes you're a big ball of energy, green ball of energy, but then sometimes you're like this black dark hole where you kind of suck energy away from people. And sometimes when I get in those moments where I feel really low, I know I'm one of those people. I know that if there's Amy's around me or someone's around me, they're not going to feel good because I don't want to talk and I'm in a bad place. Do you know what I mean? So if you're not looking after yourself, you could end up going sort of down that road, which is what I've done before. I've not looked after myself first, and then I've ended up, not being as helpful to other people. So yeah, the point is, look after yourself, and then you can be much more helpful to other people.
And yeah, and when you're in that situation where maybe you feel like you're that person that is not going to bring the positive vibes to the room or something, something I try to do is, I think things will always go a bit better once you start to recognize your actions and recognize your thought processes, and recognize what you're going through. So because I've had a chance now over the years to recognize myself in that sense, if I am that person and I'm thinking I'm just not going to be positive, whatever comes out of my mouth right now, I'm going to dispute stuff. I'm going to be negative. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I purposely, I tell myself, I'm that person right now. So try not to just try and hold your tongue, if anything. If it's kind of like that, if you ain't got anything nice to say, don't say anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. So I recognize, what, maybe I'm that person right now. So I'm going to try just not to comment on things. Do you know what I mean? It's just best I don't. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's just recognizing yourself and trying to make the best of a bad situation. So if I was to just go around and just not have any restraint on what I'm saying or doing, then
that would be a problem.
But I mean, in regards to if I was in a mood, then I'm gonna make it worse for myself anyway, because I'm gonna hate myself more. I'm gonna hate, I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna see the person's reaction to it, and I'm gonna think, why the fuck did I open my mouth? Do you know what I mean? I just made things worse for myself and now for them. Do you know what I mean? So trying to have that little bit of restraint on what you're saying and stuff, I think can help, and it's just a little bit of a focus as well, I guess.
So for you, having gone through depression, anxiety and suicidal thoughts, how would you say that you would prefer to be helped, or what things have people done for you that have really helped, that not people that wouldn't be the obvious things or are really obvious things?
Right, apart from what we mentioned earlier about someone just doing something without asking, hugging you, making you food, that sort of thing, because that is a huge thing. I think kind of based on what I said just now is also if I was to snap at someone, or not snap really angrily, but I mean if I was to say something or a snide remark or be a bit moody or grumpy in my responses, is if they don't take them too personally or they just sort of ignore them or shun them off or whatever, it helps me feel a lot better, because I already will know that what I've said is not great or something, and I already will feel poo about it. But if that person can seem relatively unaffected, or they don't make it even a bigger situation, then I can put that to rest and think, okay, I'll forgive myself and thank you so much to this person, because I'll recognize that they're not overreacting. I'll recognize that they're not reacting to what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think someone not reacting negatively to how I'm being, even if I am being, it seems so unreasonable to say, look, I'm going to be negative, but don't be negative back. Do you know what I mean? It seems so unreasonable to ask that.
I think this is the reason why we had a lot of those questions, is how can I help my partner? Because I would imagine that a lot of people are going through this where their partner's having irrational responses to such simple things. And I've done it. And one thing I would definitely say, which I try to do a lot now, is if you're one of those people who snaps or reacts because you're in a bad place, don't be so caught up in your own self and your own sort of self-pity in a way that you feel like you can't apologize.
Oh, please apologize. Yeah.
If you apologize, it literally, it makes the other person feel so much better, and then you can explain why you're feeling like that and why you're being snappy. I've done it so many times with Amy where I've gone off the handle about something so minute, and then I've seen, like you said, I've seen her reaction and she's not reacting to me. She's just sort of kind of taken aback, what's wrong with you? and then I say, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm having a shit day, or
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
bad. And then they go, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
And then what you'll find is that the communication is there, like
Yeah.
you said, and then it becomes a better conversation of, well, how can I make you feel better? Not how can I, because sometimes, you get pissed off with your partner and you want to push their buttons because you're like, well, don't be a dickhead. I can be a dickhead too. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it would turn into if that spanner wasn't thrown in there and being like, well, not a spanner, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, if that apology wasn't thrown in there, basically, yeah.
If you were like, sorry, I'm having a shit day, then they're like, it's like a light bulb goes off,
I am a huge advocate for apologies. I think they can do so much good to just say a sorry. Because it doesn't just make that person feel better, maybe understand, maybe sympathize, maybe forgive you. But for me, it makes me feel so much better. I cannot rest if I haven't said, if I know I've done something that wasn't quite right, I have to say I'm sorry. And I also make a habit of doing it as quickly as I can. I try not to dwell on it too long and be a bit bitter about whether I should apologize.
See, I'm the opposite.
Because
I'm like, fuck the world.
Really, I like to apologize as soon as I can because I know how poisonous dwelling on. Because you know deep down, if you know it's something that maybe you should say sorry for, whether you decide to or not, you know then that you've done something negative. So whether you then focus on that or not, deep down you're gonna feel bad about yourself because you've done something negative, whether you decide to go against it or not. Do you know what I mean? So I like to apologize as soon as I can. And it's not like just a sorry. Do you know what I mean? Not just I don't mean like that. I mean genuinely sorry. And
like
I think that's
on your knees outside with a saxophone, playing a little song.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna write that one down because it makes me feel better knowing I was able to be big enough, and grown up enough to apologize and not stubborn.
Oh, maybe I got a bit of growing up to do that. Nah, it's circumstantial. But sometimes it gets to the point where I'm just like, fuck everything. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm just like, I want to just fly to the other side of the world and disappear.
Oh,
for months on end.
Mate, I've thought's gone through my head many a times where I'm just like, just get rid of your phone.
Yeah.
Don't connect to any internet.
Just go Jason Bourne and just literally fuck off.
Yeah.
Just start beating people up in the street.
And
I wouldn't do that. I would never do
but
that.
you're just talking about Jason Bourne now, But I've had that thought so many times where I've just wanted to jump on an airplane and just no one knows me and no one knows where I've gone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is just a form of wanting to escape, though, literally to the maximum.
And to sound, it does sound, and it is extremely like a selfish thing to want to do because you get to the point where you're so sick of having to sort of navigate not just your own feelings but your relationships with people. And sometimes it just gets too much and you're just like, fucking hell, I just want to go away and just disappear where nobody knows me. I don't have to speak to anybody. I don't have to have those awkward conversations and resolve things. So that's another sort of bad trait of it, I guess.
But just listening to that, that it wouldn't be any sort of solution.
No, of course.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
Because you'd feel 100 times worse for a start.
So you're in fucking Vietnam and you're like, oh, I should probably text my mum now.
Exactly.
Go buy a phone from the local market.
Do you know what I mean? It would, of course.
Like, get home, you dickhead.
Yeah.
And like, oh, all right.
So it's just the thought of wanting to escape the situation you're in. So it's like you being in your bedroom sort of thing. It's okay. You just want to escape a little bit. So it's okay to take a bit of time to do that. And it's okay if someone chooses to do that.
Yeah.
But it's if they're doing that for a prolonged period of time and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, you know what I mean? It's not looking up, do you know what I mean? Then that's when you want to stop. But so we've been sort of taking these moments ourselves, even when we're both out going for a dip, we're just taking a breather, literally taking a breather, just like you put up on the Instagram story today about taking 15 seconds just to breathe.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it when we have just finished our dip in the water and we're still standing in the water, and we take a minute to just breathe in that ocean air, and you got the sun on our face, and the feeling, I can feel it now almost just thinking about it inside my body. It's like such a relaxing feeling.
Yeah.
But the point of it is when the situations get too much, or when we're having situations with other people, and like you said, trying to navigate all these social situations, we do want an escape sometimes. And moments like this, taking these breathers throughout the day, they can be such a big escape, such a helpful escape.
You keep saying escape.
I know.
I was like, he said it a few times, and I was like, shall I say it? He's going to make a really poignant point here.
I already know I do it.
Do I tell him it's not escape? And then he said it like 6 times. Sorry, mate, I had to jump in.
I know. Jazz said it to me the other day. There's a lot of words. We can just go through some of the words I've always said wrong over the years.
Do I want to hear them though?
Well, there wasn't, instead of chimney, it was chimney. Chimney. I think I've changed that one now. I'm not sure. I don't say the word much. The other one, instead of souvenir, it was Sylvania. There was that, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when he's shooting. What is b-ball at the hoop? Right?
Yeah.
And you always used to laugh at me because I always used to say shooting meatball at the hoop.
Just throwing food at the basketball.
I thought the lyrics were meatball at the hoop.
It would be a very long game, wouldn't it?
There's a lot of words, but escape, is that the word?
That's the one. Well done.
Escape is the word I always
say. It's like
say.
people who say Pacific when they're trying to say specific.
I get that one wrong. I get that one right, sorry.
Good.
But I really go specific. Do you know what I mean?
To make sure you're not saying Pacific.
I find it hard to say that word without saying it specific. See, it just sounds weird. It sounds like I'm putting too many S's. You say it.
Specific.
Oh, that was easy. Specific. Did I do it?
You did.
Anyway, wait.
Learning every day.
So anyway, sorry. So it's just breathing. It can be such a nice little escape, and and I don't think it should be underestimated. And if you are with someone
or a family member
or something, and they're going through a crap time, and you just being with them, you don't have to be watching telly. You don't have to be talking. If you're just taking some time to breathe, maybe take them for that walk and ask them to just take a little breather with you, maybe. You know,
honestly, I said it to James because I was doing it anyway when we were doing these cold water dips. So we basically jump in the sea, and then by the second go we just stand in the sea and take massive deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth, and it just brings you back to reality. And I think that's why we love the cold water swimming so much, is because you have to be present. You would get in the water, like the anxiety before, don't get me wrong, it's real, because you're just like, fucking hell, this is going to be so cold. Even this morning we were like, oh, dreading this. But as soon as you dive in, all that anxiety turns into adrenaline. You're buzzing, you're laughing, and then when you take those deep breaths, you couldn't be more present. It's a special thing. So give that a go with someone. Maybe
that's the point, is the takeaway thing is, whether you know someone or you're going through it, is try and find something maybe within your days that will just remove you from your mental reality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And actually put you back in reality, whether it's a dip in the water, whether it's a 1 minute, 60-second breather, whatever it might be. I mean, maybe while you're eating your meal, eat your meal and focus on the food.
Yeah.
Focus on the taste, focus on texture. Enjoy the meal, maybe sit by a window, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Instead of putting TV on while you eat it. You know?
One thing I listened to before about eating, which is like the simplest thing, you do it 3 times a day at least, is like to be mindful about it instead of, because most people sit in front of the Netflix. I do it all the time. You sit down, you scoff your food, you don't even taste it sometimes. You're just like,
every meal.
But if you sit there with no distractions, no music, no TV, eat your food and like think about all the ingredients in that dish and where that ingredients come from.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds counterintuitive because I'm like, to get out all your thoughts, but
but you're in the moment, aren't you?
The foods, you're like, you're eating that food, you're like, oh wow, this curry, all the spices have come all the way from India, and then you just, do you know what I mean? And it honestly, the first time I did it, I was like, this is probably one of the best meals I've ever had, and it was like pasta, and I was like so in tune with the foods, and I think mindfulness is definitely something you can practice with yourself or someone.
Yeah, definitely.
That will help.
Definitely.
He'd be like, "Oh, where are those flavors?" Fuck off, mate. I'm just trying to eat my pasta.
Yeah, what you mean if two people doing it together?
Yeah. Like, tell me where the flavors are from. Like, shut up, mate. Another question we had was, what questions should I ask somebody who's struggling to get them to open up? Which is a brilliant question, because it can be difficult. Even if you really want to share it, it can be quite scary to open up. But if someone's willing to ask you that question and ask you how you're doing, and maybe ask you twice, which is always a good way of doing it, they're willing to hear what you've got to say. So if someone's opening and giving you an olive branch like that, that's not the right term, is it? That's like an apology, isn't it?
I think the word is chimney.
So if someone's giving you that opportunity, then they're willing to listen. So
one thing we thought was asking someone as well, maybe, will you come for a walk with me? You know, not do you want to go for a walk? Because they'll probably say, no, I don't want to. But the point is, we're trying to get you out of that. When you go for a walk as well, is that you're not having to face someone head on sort of thing, you know. So if you do talk, you're not having to look them in the eye necessarily, because you're walking, you're looking where you're going, etc.
Do you just say etc.?
What is it?
Etc.
Etc. There's a theme today, isn't there?
Softening letters off.
What is it? Etc.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Etc.
Yeah.
X Factor.
Okay, so etc. Learning all sorts. This podcast's so informative.
I know, mate. Free education.
So if someone comes for a walk with you, I think it can be a bit more of a comfortable setting for them, because you don't even have to talk the whole time. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to fill those gaps. You can literally just walk and be looking at the nature, you know?
Yeah, so if there's like silences, you're not like staring each other in the eyes.
Exactly.
And I think that's why they do, when you like go to confession, not that I've ever been, but there's a divide when you're spilling your guts to the vicar. You can't see him, so you don't feel as vulnerable. So I think with walking, maybe you can just stand either side of a tree.
Yeah. So asking people things like that, do you want to go for a walk? Asking them what's going through your mind.
Yeah.
Do you want to share? And maybe tell them, I won't give you any input. I won't talk if you don't want me to. I'll just listen if you want to just tell me what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. Hearing you say that out loud is quite a daunting thing to try and answer, because if someone's like, what's going on in your mind, and you're just inside your head, it's just like fireworks and chaos. You're just like, oh shit. But then I think as soon as you start saying it out loud, you're like, oh, it's not actually that bad, or it is bad and I need to seek some help. Yeah. So I think a question is, how are you feeling, or what's on your mind? I'm here to listen. Yeah. That's like the perfect line, because then, and even saying, there's no judgment, this is a safe place, things like that. And just, it's about feeling comfortable, I think. And if you're making someone feel comfortable, they're more likely to open up and tell you their thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. Because also, not everyone, if you do choose to open up to people, not everyone will respond how we would hope they would. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone's going to be sympathetic or understanding. Some people might just be like, pull yourself together, or back in my day, who knows? Do you know what I mean? So if that happens, they weren't the only person you could have talked to, sort of thing. You know what I mean? Find somebody else. That's not the end of the road. Yeah, just know that as well. Not everyone's the right person to talk to. You know, not everyone can sympathise, and not everyone can give you the support you need. It's important to make sure you don't just shun it off and think, well, I tried, but obviously this person says this and whatnot, and don't take that to heart. Try to find the right person. And you were saying today about how you went and spoke to someone yesterday, and it was someone you don't really know that well, right? But you ended up finding it quite easy to both open up to each other, because you knew you had maybe similar experiences as well. But but you also found, what I'm trying to say is, you'd be surprised who might relate to you and who might be able to open up with you, or who might be able to help you. Just by putting this podcast out, we've heard from a number of people that, maybe we've known back in the day, and you had no idea that they were going through similar stuff, You would have had no idea. You would have thought, oh, they got a perfect life or whatnot. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think you'd be surprised who eventually you might find
you can really relate to or can really be helped by or find a really close relationship with.
And I think it boils down to like speaking your truth. If there's an element of your personality or your thoughts that you're holding back, then it's eventually going to come out some way. And if you're bottling things up, I think that's where a lot of anxiety can come from. Is like you want to get all these things out of you. It's almost like energy that needs to be released. But if you bottle it all up, it's going to come out. I watched that film you said about the other day, Escape from Pretoria, with Daniel Radcliffe. Great film, actually.
It's good, isn't it?
But the point he makes in that is like, he's trying to escape from prison. And so every day he's making these keys to try and get out of the cells. And the anxiety from lying to the prison officers and holding things in, he says in the film, he's like, in the evenings he was getting panic attacks because that energy's all built up inside of him and it has to come out somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think it's exactly the same with not speaking what your problems are. If you keep them all in, it's gonna physically
get worse.
It's gonna physically affect you as well.
And it'll eventually get worse, and who knows, where the boiling point sort of is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not where you want to get to. That's where you want to stop it before that.
Yeah.
And also, in case opening up, when we say that, you think to yourself, I don't think I can do that. We don't mean pour your heart out. You can if you want to.
Yeah.
But we don't mean you have to try and express everything you're feeling. You don't have to tell them every thought you're having. Just telling them, I got to be honest with you, I haven't been feeling great for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of struggling to be happy on a day-to-day or something. Just something like that. It can be as vague as that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe saying to him, I just... I don't know. And if you feel like you want some extra love or something, just tell him. I think you should just express it however you want. It can be as small or as big as you want, as long as you do express it.
Another point someone made was about motivation and how to get motivated, or how to motivate your partner if they're not willing or not feeling like they're motivated. And this is something that Amy and I sort of always swap roles with. So there'd be days where I feel down and unmotivated, and before, what would happen is we would sort of bicker because like maybe I wouldn't be doing as much as I should be, or Amy was doing more. But then we'll swap roles where I would be doing a lot and Amy would feel unmotivated and wouldn't be doing much. But I think because the breakdown in communication was that we weren't feeling unmotivated, we were just sort of scooting around things, and then we would bicker. But then when I feel like that now and I don't feel motivated, I just say, Aim, I can't be bothered today, so can you do all the work? And vice versa. Do you know what I mean? I think if you just say... But
it saved you the bickering and the animosity towards each other.
Going, oh, we'll do that. And I'm just like, I don't feel like doing it today. And you have to, sometimes you've got, it's like your body just saying, take a break.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And if that's something that your partner's struggling with, or you can't get them motivated to do things, start by doing what we said, take them for a walk, ask them to spill what they're thinking about, because a lot of not being motivated is, self-doubt, or people worrying about getting things done, or worrying about failing and the fear of failure and stuff like that. So I think the first step is just to get people to speak.
Yeah. Oh, and let them know you're thinking about them too.
Yeah.
Send them funny pictures or videos of you or something, or send it. That's what I do.
We used to do that. Remember, we used to send videos all the time,
doing a Mike Tyson impression or something. But so do that, or send him a little message, even just a text. Because I think it really helps for them to know that just because now that person maybe that they have opened up to and who is their support, just because that person maybe has gone to work now or gone out with their friends now or something like that, maybe. Mm-hmm. If then you receive a little message from that person or something, and they basically letting you know that they're thinking about you.
Yeah.
It feels so nice to know you are cared about. And I think it can make the difference, stop you feeling alone and slumping even more.
Yeah.
But if you do struggle to find someone to talk to, we were thinking of a little idea of maybe making a Facebook page where you can go, and hopefully there'll be someone there then who, once we've got a big group together, who can respond to you, or maybe multiple people can respond, or maybe you'll all arrange to go for a little meetup or something, or go for a walk, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe increase the brothers community in that way as well.
Definitely. So yeah, we'll leave links to the Facebook group underneath our YouTube. So have a look there and come and join the group.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything straight away.
Yeah,
just join the group and wait for someone who does want to talk. You know what I mean?
Just be a little pervy Pete in the corner. It's fine. Another thing I wanted to say, I just was thinking about that then when you were saying about opening up. It's so difficult because you feel like you don't want to look vulnerable and you don't want to look like you're not like able to look after yourself, or you might be worried about how that person will then look at you once you tell them how you feel. But what you'll find is what I found with Amy is the total opposite. As soon as I told her how I felt and told her that I felt down and lonely, she couldn't believe it, and she wanted to be there to help me. Whereas I thought, oh, well, if I tell her this, she's going to be like, oh, that's how he feels, and like think I was weak or something like that. And I think that comes back to like the, you know, that toxic masculinity mentality where you've got to be, you know, feel like you're fronting and you're strong and you're not vulnerable. But I think being vulnerable and open is the most beautiful and natural thing you can do. And again, like showing love to people as well, because I think there's so much hate and there's so much horrible stuff in the world. Just like telling people that you love them. Like James used to get weirded out by that. But when I'd say, I love you, mate, he'd be like, no, you don't. And I'm like, well, I actually do, though. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah, this was years ago, though. I'm a changed man now.
He's a changed man now. He tells me he loves me now.
Yeah,
so
I love him loads. And I think you'll find that if you've got a person in your life, whether it's a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a sister or whoever it might be, that you are pretty close with, I think you should have a little less reason, I think, to be scared, because there's a big chance that there's a reason this person's so close to you, and that's because they care for you and they're going to understand and they want what's best for you, you know? And so when you do open up, I think you're gonna feel that love from them, because that person wants to show you they love you and they want to care for you and they want to help you, you know?
I almost feel like in this day and age, to a certain extent, people are just walking around wearing masks. Do you know what I mean? They switch the masks out depending on the person and the day. But I feel like by being vulnerable, you're literally taking your mask off and being like, this is who I am. And then that connection you have with the person, it triples. Do you know what I mean? Because they're like, they will find so much comfort and be so overwhelmed that you've been so honest with them. They'll be like, oh shit. They care about me because they're willing to be so honest with me. Do you know what I mean? And
it's also that thing of attracting the right people in your life, isn't it? Then you know, you may be bummed out because the people in your life maybe aren't the right people for you. You know, because maybe you're not showing your true colors of who you really want to be or who you are or what you're capable of, and maybe people are holding you back a little, you know, and they're not the right people for you. But as soon as you open up and be yourself, unapologetically yourself, it seems scary at first, and it will take maybe a little time, but you will find people in your life then who are perfect for you. You know, whether it's friends or whatever, you know. And once that happens, you'll flourish. You know what I mean? You'll enjoy your day so much more.
You're not hiding anything then. You know, you're yourself, and you can have conversations. And I think, you know, a lot of therapy, which people pay for, is just voicing your thoughts. But if you can find someone who can do that with, you know, on a regular basis, one, you'll save some money. And two, you know, you've got a friend who knows you and knows, you know, because, they'll just know you inside out, and it would just be a nice thing to share. Yeah.
And before we finish up, something we should mention as well is that if someone you know is getting to that sort of extreme end of things, like I found myself feeling, and feeling suicidal, things like that, something Craig did for me was that I like he said, we spoke in the coffee shop, etc. He knew how down I was and how sort of urgently I need help and stuff. And this was in the evening we went to the coffee shop. It was like the night. And by the next morning, when I'd met up with Craig, I think it might have been the scooter day. I'm not sure. I think it might have been. I'd met up with you by the morning, and Craig had already like spoke to like a charity It was Big Moose Charity, but you already kind of knew them anyway. You knew them anyway. But anyone can call another charity if they need to, and speak to them. And he had called up to see, to say, I'm really worried about my friend. What is there anything you can do to help? And he'd already had me then by the next morning booked in to see a therapist and to speak to someone, in a couple of days' time or something. And you'd also called up I had spoke to the doctor, and I was waiting through the doctors to see some sort of counselling there as well. But obviously, because it's on the NHS, NHS is great, but things are a bit slower sometimes because there's so many people needing help.
Yeah.
So I was waiting to speak to counselling there as well. And he had called up that charity as well that the NHS use. And you spoke to them to say, I'm really worried. Can we fast track this or something? And those things that he did, the therapy and everything, that really helped me. But the fact alone that he had even taken those steps and made those efforts, and he had sort of showed me like how much someone had cared about me and there was what they were willing to do for me. Even that in itself just made me feel so incredible and made me feel like I should stick around, because it would almost be not fair to you. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was an amazing thing to do. So if you do know someone maybe and you are really worried to that extent, make some phone calls or something, really encourage them to go and speak to their GP. Yeah. And just be there for them as quick as you can, And I think that's just, I just wanted to say that because it's something you did. It really helped me. And, someone else might need that as well.
Yeah. I'm glad I could be there for you, mate,
Yeah, of course.
And I know you do the same, so.
Nah. No, I'm joking. I'm absolutely joking. I'm glad we could end on a bit of a smile there. Yeah, sorry if today's podcast felt a little bit all over the place. I think we kind of struggled a little bit to try and, because to try and let you know our experiences without turning this into a whole, here's some tips for you sort of thing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I hope something of what you've heard has helped or will help. I'm sure it will, because I think there was so much to cover.
Yeah.
So many different ways in which you could help someone. And I think we covered quite a few of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we had some struggles along the way, I think. But yeah, so that's where we are. Follow us on Instagram at The Brothers Podcast.
The Brothers _podcast.
Oh, The Brothers _podcast. I'm sure if you type it in, it'll come up though, won't it?
And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you press subscribe, leave us a comment below, or leave us a review. Oh, you can't leave reviews yet. We're not on Apple Podcasts. It takes a long time, actually.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, we're on everything else, obviously. You found us here. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for the messages as well. This has probably gone out after our cold water swim. But if you did come along, I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, because we might even do them as a weekly thing. Barry Island, taking a dip in the water with us.
So until next time, we'll see you then. Or you'll hear us then.
Yes, you will. Well, you'll see us on YouTube, won't you?
Well, not if they're on Spotify.
All right, then. We'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it. And hopefully some laughs for you next time.
Love you.
Yes, we do. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.